The shocking news surrounding Mido has left fans deeply concerned, as reports of a sudden medical emergency have raised serious questions about his current condition. What was expected to be another ordinary day quickly turned into a frightening situation when Mido was reportedly taken to the hospital, leaving Debby overwhelmed and struggling to process what was happening. According to the dramatic scenario surrounding this story, Mido's condition became serious enough to require emergency medical attention. The sudden hospitalization reportedly caught everyone off guard. For Debby, the situation was especially painful because there was little time to prepare for what came next. The atmosphere inside the emergency room was described as tense and emotional. While medical professionals worked to determine what was happening, Debby was reportedly left waiting for answers. Every passing minute seemed to bring more anxiety, with uncertainty becoming the hardest part of the situation. Debby's reaction has become one of the most emotional aspects of the story. Seeing someone close to her suddenly facing a frightening medical crisis reportedly left her devastated. Instead of being able to focus on anything else, her attention was completely centered on Mido and whether he would make it through the emergency. The situation reportedly escalated so quickly that there was barely any opportunity for normal conversations or explanations. One moment everything seemed manageable, and the next, Mido was receiving emergency care. That kind of sudden change can be terrifying, especially when someone you care about is fighting through an unknown medical problem. As Debby waited in the hospital, emotions reportedly became impossible to contain. Fear, confusion, and helplessness appeared to take over. She could only wait while doctors evaluated Mido and tried to determine the best course of treatment. For fans familiar with the complicated journey between Debby and Mido, this alleged hospital emergency adds another emotional layer to their story. Their relationship has already experienced difficult moments, and a medical crisis can completely change how people look at their priorities. The biggest question now is what actually happened to Mido before he arrived at the hospital. Was there a sudden health incident? Did he experience symptoms that became impossible to ignore? Or was there another underlying problem that required immediate attention? Those questions remain at the center of the speculation surrounding the dramatic situation. Without verified medical information, fans should be careful about treating rumors as confirmed facts. A hospitalization can be serious, but details about a person's diagnosis, prognosis, or treatment should come from reliable sources rather than assumptions. Still, the emotional impact on Debby is impossible to overlook in this storyline. The image of someone sitting inside an emergency department, waiting for news about a loved one, is one that can be heartbreaking. For Debby, the uncertainty reportedly became the most difficult part of the entire ordeal. The hospital environment itself can make an already frightening situation feel even more intense. Doctors moving quickly, nurses checking information, and family members waiting for updates can create an atmosphere filled with tension. Every announcement or phone call can feel like it carries enormous weight. At some point, Debby reportedly faced the reality that she could not control what happened next. All she could do was hope that Mido received the care he needed and that his condition would stabilize. This alleged crisis also raises questions about what could happen between them after the emergency. Serious health scares often force people to reconsider old arguments, unresolved issues, and personal disagreements. When someone's well-being is suddenly at risk, priorities can change almost instantly. For Debby, the situation reportedly became much bigger than relationship drama. Her immediate concern was Mido's safety. Whatever happened between them previously, seeing him in a hospital emergency situation would naturally create an overwhelming emotional response. Fans are now waiting for clearer information. Was Mido eventually stabilized? Did doctors discover what caused the emergency? How long did he remain under medical observation? And most importantly, what is his condition now? Until credible details become available, those questions remain unanswered. The story has also sparked concern among viewers who have followed Mido and Debby's journey. Many people are wondering whether this hospital emergency could become another major turning point in their lives. One thing is certain, a sudden medical crisis can change everything in an instant. Plans disappear, disagreements become less important, and the only thing that matters is making sure the person receives help. For Debby, the alleged emergency reportedly became an emotional breaking point. Her distress inside the hospital paints a picture of someone facing the possibility of losing control over a situation she desperately wanted to fix. And that is what makes this story so heartbreaking. As everyone waits for more reliable information about Mido's health, the focus should remain on his recovery and privacy. Speculation may continue online, but the truth about his condition can only come from confirmed information. If Mido is recovering, fans will undoubtedly hope that he receives the time, treatment, and support necessary to regain his strength. And if Debby really experienced such a frightening moment, she too may need time to process everything that happened. This alleged hospitalization has once again shown how quickly life can change. One unexpected emergency can turn an ordinary day into a moment filled with fear, tears, and uncertainty. Now, all eyes are on Mido. Will he recover from this frightening health crisis? What caused the emergency in the first place? And how will this experience affect Mido and Debby moving forward? Those answers may reveal the next major chapter of their story. Until then, the most important hope is simple: that Mido receives proper medical care, that his condition improves, and that everyone involved gets the answers they desperately need. The latest twist in Mido and Debby's story raises even more questions, as the emotional aftermath of the reported medical emergency continues to unfold. What happened behind the hospital doors remains unclear, but the situation has created a wave of concern among viewers who have been following their complicated journey. For Debby, the hardest part may not have been the initial shock. It was the waiting. Hospitals can become places where time feels completely different. Minutes seem endless when someone you care about is receiving urgent medical attention. Every movement in the hallway, every conversation between medical staff, and every closed door can create another wave of anxiety. That uncertainty reportedly left Debby emotionally exhausted. She had no control over the medical decisions being made around Mido. She could only wait for updates and hope that the situation would move in a positive direction. The emotional pressure of being unable to help directly can be overwhelming. Meanwhile, questions about Mido's sudden health crisis continue to circulate. What caused him to require emergency treatment? Did something happen unexpectedly? Or had there been warning signs beforehand? Those details are especially important because a sudden hospitalization can happen for many different reasons. Without confirmed medical information, it would be irresponsible to claim a specific diagnosis. What can be understood from the dramatic situation is that the emergency reportedly created serious concern for everyone around him. Debby's emotional reaction also suggests how deeply the situation affected her. Whatever disagreements or complicated moments may have existed between them, a medical emergency can put everything into perspective. Suddenly, old arguments may seem insignificant. Instead of thinking about the past, the immediate concern becomes survival, treatment, and recovery. That shift can be powerful. A frightening experience often forces people to reconsider what they truly value and who they want beside them when life becomes difficult. For Debby, the hospital experience may have brought emotions to the surface that she had previously tried to control. Fear can expose feelings that people normally keep hidden. At the same time, viewers are left wondering what Mido himself was experiencing during this frightening period. Being rushed into emergency care can be confusing and terrifying, especially when everything happens quickly. Doctors and nurses may have needed to perform tests, monitor vital signs, and determine what was causing the problem. Until those evaluations were complete, nobody could know exactly what would happen next. That uncertainty would naturally make the situation even more stressful for Debby. Another major question is whether Mido will need additional treatment after the emergency. Some medical situations require only short-term observation, while others can involve extended care and recovery. That is why it is important not to jump to conclusions based solely on emotional reports or online speculation. For now, the focus should remain on verified information and Mido's well-being. Still, the alleged incident could have consequences far beyond the hospital. A serious scare can change relationships in unexpected ways. People may start having conversations they avoided for years. They may apologize, reconnect, or finally admit how much they mean to each other. Could that happen between Mido and Debby? It is impossible to know. But a moment like this can certainly make people reconsider their priorities. Debby may also have to confront difficult emotions once the immediate crisis passes. During an emergency, there is often no time to think about complicated feelings. Everything becomes focused on getting through the next hour. Only afterward does the emotional weight fully arrive. That may be when Debby begins processing how close she felt to losing someone important to her. For viewers, the situation also serves as a reminder that reality television and online entertainment often show only part of people's lives. Behind dramatic headlines are real human beings dealing with private circumstances. That is why any claims about Mido's health should be treated carefully until reliable confirmation is available. The biggest unanswered question remains his current condition. If he has stabilized, the next challenge could be recovery. Recovery can require patience, lifestyle changes, follow-up appointments, and emotional support. Even after leaving a hospital, a person may need considerable time before returning to normal life. And Debby could have an important role during that period, depending on where their relationship currently stands. The experience may also force both of them to reconsider what comes next. Perhaps they will become closer. Perhaps they will decide to maintain distance. Or perhaps the crisis will simply give them a different perspective on everything they have experienced together. Nothing should be assumed before the facts are known. For now, concern remains the dominant emotion surrounding this story. Fans are waiting for an update that could finally explain what happened, how serious Mido's condition became, and whether he is now safe. Until that information arrives, the most meaningful message is one of hope rather than speculation. A frightening hospital visit can leave emotional scars, but it can also remind people of the importance of support, compassion, and time. For Debby, the alleged emergency reportedly became one of the most painful moments she has faced in connection with Mido. And for Mido, the priority now is simple: receiving the care he needs and getting the chance to recover. Whatever happens next, this dramatic chapter may leave a lasting impact on both of their lives. The questions are still unanswered, the emotions are still raw, and the full story has yet to emerge. The situation surrounding Mido takes an even more emotional turn as attention shifts from the initial emergency to what could happen after the immediate danger passes. While people continue searching for answers, the bigger story may now be about the consequences of such a frightening experience. For Debby, the emotional impact could last much longer than the hospital visit itself. A crisis can leave people replaying every moment in their minds. They may remember the phone call that changed everything, the rush to get help, and the fear of not knowing what would happen next. Even when the immediate danger is over, those memories can remain extremely powerful. That may be exactly what Debby is dealing with now. The uncertainty surrounding Mido's health has also created a storm of questions among viewers. People want to know whether his condition improved, whether additional medical attention was necessary, and what doctors may have discovered. However, none of those details should be presented as confirmed unless they come directly from a reliable source. What makes the situation particularly emotional is the possibility that the emergency could force Mido and Debby to reconsider their relationship. Difficult relationships often become complicated because of disagreements, disappointment, and unresolved feelings. But when something frightening happens, those issues can suddenly look very different. A serious scare can remind two people that time is limited. It can make them think about conversations they never finished and things they wish they had said. It can also create an opportunity for forgiveness, although whether that happens is entirely up to the people involved. Debby may now be asking herself difficult questions. What if the situation had become worse? What would she have wanted to say to Mido? Would she have regretted anything left unresolved? These are the kinds of questions that can emerge after a frightening experience. At the same time, Mido's perspective remains important. A person experiencing a health crisis may have an entirely different understanding of what happened. The physical exhaustion, emotional stress, and uncertainty can affect how someone thinks about the future. If Mido eventually gets the opportunity to reflect on everything, he may see certain parts of his life differently. The emergency could also encourage him to prioritize his well-being. Medical scares sometimes become a wake-up call, pushing people to take symptoms seriously and make changes they previously avoided. But again, there is not enough confirmed information to say what Mido's doctors have advised or what his recovery might involve. That uncertainty is exactly why viewers should separate confirmed facts from online rumors. Meanwhile, Debby's emotional state could become another major part of the story. Even if Mido begins improving, she may still be dealing with fear and exhaustion. People often assume that once a crisis is over, everyone immediately feels relieved. In reality, the opposite can happen. Once the immediate pressure disappears, emotions can suddenly hit harder. Someone who remained strong during the emergency may finally break down afterward. Debby may need time to process everything without the constant pressure of waiting for updates. The experience could also change how she communicates with Mido. Perhaps conversations that once ended in frustration could become more honest. Perhaps they will discuss what they truly want from each other. Or perhaps the experience will show them that they need separate paths. There is no way to predict the outcome. What remains clear is that a major health scare can become a defining moment in any relationship. For fans, the situation is also a reminder not to turn someone's possible medical crisis into entertainment alone. Behind every headline is a person whose well-being matters more than speculation. That means waiting for trustworthy updates is more responsible than repeating unverified claims. The biggest development everyone is hoping for is a clear update about Mido's condition. If he is recovering, fans will likely want to know whether he has returned home, whether he remains under observation, and whether doctors expect him to make a full recovery. If additional treatment is required, the situation could become a longer journey. And through all of it, Debby may remain emotionally connected to what happens next. The hospital emergency reportedly brought fear into the center of their story, but the aftermath could bring something else, perspective. Sometimes the most difficult moments force people to recognize what they truly care about. Whether Mido and Debby ultimately rebuild their connection, remain friends, or continue separately, this experience could leave an impression on both of them. For now, there are more questions than answers. The circumstances surrounding Mido's reported emergency still require clarification. His current health status needs to be confirmed, and Debby's emotional response remains part of a much larger story that may continue to develop. One thing should remain at the center of it all: Mido's well-being. Whatever relationship drama comes later can wait. Right now, recovery, accurate information, and privacy matter most. As viewers wait for the next update, the story remains unresolved. The emergency may have been unexpected, but what happens afterward could become an even bigger turning point. Will Mido return to normal life soon? Will Debby stand beside him during the recovery? Will this frightening experience bring them closer, or finally convince them to move in different directions? Those answers remain unknown. And until reliable information emerges, the only responsible approach is to wait, avoid assumptions, and hope that Mido receives the care and support he needs. The story surrounding Mido and Debby now reaches another emotional stage, with attention turning toward what this frightening chapter could mean for the future. After an unexpected medical scare, life rarely returns to normal immediately. Even when the emergency itself ends, the emotional consequences can continue for days, weeks, or longer. For Debby, the experience may have changed the way she looks at everything. A person can spend months dealing with relationship problems, disagreements, and uncertainty, but one terrifying moment can suddenly put all of those issues into perspective. What once seemed like the biggest problem may no longer feel important. The most important thing becomes having another chance. That possibility may be weighing heavily on Debby as she tries to understand what happened. If Mido is recovering, his road ahead could involve more than simply leaving the hospital. Recovery can be physically demanding, and the emotional side of a serious health scare can be just as difficult. Rest, monitoring, follow-up care, and support may all become important depending on what medical professionals determine. However, the exact details of Mido's condition remain unclear without verified information. That uncertainty has not stopped people from asking questions. Some viewers are wondering whether this incident could permanently change Mido's priorities. Others are curious about whether Debby will remain involved in his life. There are also questions about whether the pair might finally address issues that have remained unresolved. But none of those outcomes can be predicted yet. What can be said is that difficult experiences often create moments of reflection. Mido may begin looking at his future differently. Health problems can make people think about where they are going,